Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards, and today I'm going to do a video where I talk more about what I enjoy about my vintage card collection. And as you can see, I have a scrapbook in front of me right here, and this was my wife's uncle's scrapbook from when he was a kid. He would cut out different pictures, he would send autographs or postcards out to be autographed, and he would put them inside of the scrapbook. So today I'm just going to show a couple pages from the scrapbook that really exemplify the direction I've gone with in my collecting about building just these groups of cards that really either signify something I connect with or something historical or, again, something nostalgic. And in this instance, it's really that combination of the history and the nostalgia as well as that overall connection that the scrapbook really, I think, embraces. So with that, I'm going to flip here. See in this page here, there's some different Yankee players, and these articles were not glued in, but some of these other pages were. So here you can see on this side here, I'm going to just hover over it, the big four. It was originally the big three with Lopat, Raschi, and Allie Reynolds, and then you can see they're peeking out from behind, holding the ball out, is Whitey Ford, who made it a big four of that great Yankees pitching staff, excuse me, from the 1950s. And then here's a photograph from the 1952 World Series against the Dodgers, and this would have been Game 4. The Yankees had won 2-0, and you can see in the middle there Allie Reynolds with Johnny Mize and Mickey Mantle having their arms around him. And then on this side here you have a nice cutout of Jerry Coleman, and there's a little JC down there below, initials, and then Eddie Lopat, Vic Rashee, and then Yogi Berra. So this is really just a nice way to capture that era of baseball from the Yankees' perspective, and just really how a young child, a 12, 13-year-old, really viewed this team and the greats of that day, just how he memorialized them, so to speak, in this scrapbook. And then on this page here, you can see some other photographs here: Vic Rashee, Eddie Lopat, Casey Stengel, and then Stengel and Berra together on the bottom there. So this really is something that I've connected with, and I'm glad that I can capture this in my collection. I do have family history on both sides with the Yankees, as I showed in other videos. Archie Wilson was a relative of my wife's through marriage, and he played with the Yankees very early in his career in 1951, and then he was in spring training with them in 52, and he was Mickey Mantle's roommate. And then also I have family members on my side of the family that knew George Steinbrenner from the Florida area. So I do have some connections with the Yankees that really makes them our favorite team on both sides of the family. Although my father-in-law was an Indians fan. My wife's uncle, though, was a Yankee fan. So that's that connection there, and I'm just going to show now how it connects through the cards. If you just hang on one second. And I talk about these connections that we can make through cards, and here you see this Allie Reynolds. I showed this in another video, paired with the Bob Feller from 1950 Bowman and the Yogi Berra from the same set, 50 Bowman. This is a 51 Allie Reynolds. And just to show that you could have a similar card, but if you put it with different pairings, it really just evokes a different image, really, that you're trying to capture, and really just evokes a different theme. And in this instance, you can see here I'm going to add in the Vic Rashee and the Eddie Lopat, which I picked up. So now I have the three of that Yankee big three from the late 40s, early 1950s. And that really was quite the staff. So from 1949 to 1953, the Yankees, as I said, won 5 consecutive World Series. And they really did it with not the same offensive firepower they've had in previous championship years and even thereafter. And they were really more like those late 90s Yankees teams that were just like a really good team. They had good players on the teams, supported from the pitching staff all the way to the guys on the bench, to the players in the position that played the positions. And the franchise really came to rely on these three aging pitchers during that time. And it really was an unlikely trio. But during that 5-year stretch, these three gentlemen won 255 games. They are also combined 15-6 in the World Series. And in the case of Eddie Lopat, he was known as the junk man of the staff. He had an assortment of curves and slurves and what they call off-speed slop that he used to stymie hitters when he came into the league in 1944 with the White Sox, all the way up till when he retired in 55 with the Orioles. And Ted Williams called him the toughest pitcher he ever faced. And I read in his obituary, Eddie Lopat's obituary, that the writer Red Smith once said that Lopat's pitchers never exceeded the speed limit. And Lopat once explained how he was successful with Ted Williams. And here's what he said. He said, "I never threw the same pitch twice and never to the same spot twice, and Williams hated that." He used to call him Eddie Bleepin' Lopat. And then the other gentleman here in the middle I've talked about, Allie Reynolds. He was 7-2 in the World Series. He threw the 2 no-hitters in 1951. And I have another video on him that I'll put the link to in case you haven't seen it. But I want to talk more about Vic Rashee for a minute here. And he was the big right-hander in that staff, and he was known as the Springfield Rifle in honor of his hometown and also his fastball. And Raschi had 3 consecutive 21-win seasons from 49 to 51, and he had a remarkable 120-50 record in his 8 seasons with the Yankees. And he was really known for an overpowering fastball, and he also had a surprising array of pitches, which was taught to him by Eddie Lopat, including an effective slider and changeup. And he had very good control for a power pitcher. And as impressive as his overall win-loss record was, Raschi was really known as the big game pitcher. And his teammate Tommy Heinrich said, "If there's only one game I had to win, the man I'd want out there on the mound for me would be Vic Rashee." And his other teammate Jerry Coleman said, "He was our bread and butter guy. Allie Reynolds had the better arm, but Raschi was the guy that rose to the occasion." So he really was revered by his Yankee teammates. So I'm really happy to have these 3 great pitchers into my collection, and I think they just look so great together presented. And I look forward to displaying them in my card room. So the late 90s Rams were known as the greatest show on turf. Well, let me tell you, there was a Rams team that really came before them that I would say is the greatest show on grass back in the early 50s. And this was the 1949 to 1951 Rams was really when they're in their heyday. And they were one of the best offensive teams in NFL history. And they were known as the high-flying Rams. And from 49 to 51, they went to 3 straight NFL championships, in which they've won 1. They were one of the power teams during the golden era of the 50s. And it's the 1950 Rams that held the single-season scoring record with 466 points at that time. And they still hold the per-game NFL record of 38.8 points per game. And that record, like I said, has not been broken yet. And there's no team in NFL history has done it. And they scored in that season 51, 65, and 70 points in a game, which is just remarkable. And the Rams at that time had 2 star quarterbacks. I'll hone in on them a little bit here. And I've shown these cards before. Is this Bob Waterfield for 1950 Bowman and the 51 Bowman Norm Van Brocklin, which that's his rookie card. And you can just see there the beautiful helmets that they had back in those days, the leather helmets. And I just think those are just, wonderful works of art, these old Bowman cards. And here you can see you have those 2 great quarterbacks. They played both rotating that season. Both quarterbacks were 1 and 2 in the league in passer rating. Both are in the Hall of Fame. Both, though, that year made the Pro Bowl. Really just a fantastic season for them. And then the other 2 cards you can see here is the Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch, and that's a 1950 Bowman rookie. And then below that is the 1950 Bowman Tom Fears. And they were the 2 receivers that were the core of that team as far as the pass catchers go. They also had another great receiver, Bob Boyd. But these 2 are the ones that are in the Hall of Fame, which is in just 12 games again, 1,116 yards. He also had 7 touchdowns. And Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch, he was known as Crazy Legs because his legs would flail around when he ran, but he was just so quick and had very good speed as well. And in 1950, he had 42 catches, 687 yards, and 7 touchdowns. In 51, Hirsch, in just 12 games, had 66 catches, 1,495 yards, and 17 touchdowns. So in the 51 season, in 12 games, this man had 17 touchdowns. He was a 2-time All-Pro and a 3-time Pro Bowler. And again, both these men are in the Hall of Fame. So I thought I wanted to highlight really this great team. I have more cards from this team that I've put together. I'm going to show those in later videos, but I just wanted to show these few today. And the last group I want to show here is what I call 4 of a kind. You can see these 4 great Reds players, all with their rookie trophies. And again, I've shown the Pete Rose and the bench on my channel before, but when you put them in different settings, these cards really just give you a different impression. and they really do capture something special here, I think. You have these four players that were the core of the Big Red Machine, all with their rookie trophies, and of course these guys had a lot more hardware to come in their career. The Big Red Machine won 2 World Series in 75 and 76, and between these four players, you had 5 MVPs, 7 World Series, and 48 All-Star appearances, 17 Gold Gloves. 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame, of course, with Tony Perez and Joe Morgan, and Johnny Bench, and then of course Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, if not for his gambling on baseball, of course, that keeps him out. But you just have 4 of the core of the Big Red Machine here, and this is, again, just another great way to capture these players when they first started out. And then you can see here, they're already getting hardware early on, and their careers really just continue to take off from there. So I really love to do these types of things with my cards and just really just capture that history, as you can see right here. So I'm going to stop here today. I got some other cards I'm going to show off in other videos, just really, again, capturing the history of the game through just these works of art that are baseball and football cards. And I'm just really enjoying doing this, and hopefully you enjoy it as well. Everybody have a Happy New Year. Take care.